Hey, welcome to Game Dev Weekly, the weekly development show where I do game development every single week. If you're new here, Hydroneer is a mining game where you dig for gold and other resources to build massive mining machines. So I'm moving back to my parents' place because I just finished my degree and I'm going to be there for, I reckon, about a year or so. The goal is to save as much money as possible and keep putting it into Hydroneer. While I move home, I'm going to be making my money through a part-time job that I'm going to have 2 days working in a bar for, and also money made from Patreon and other game sales. Once I get about 50 Patreons, I'll be able to quit that job and focus 100% back onto Hydroneer like I have been doing the past few months. So if you want to support the channel and support the game and also have a go on the game, then check out the Patreon. There's a link down in the description. For $2 minimum, you can play Hydroneer and get all of its updates. So I want to start off this video by showing you guys the room that I've been living in for the past year. This is where I developed and finished the Scuttle, as well as starting on Hydroneer. It's not a very large room, but it fits everything pretty nicely. I got 2 monitors, which makes things really easy to develop on. I've got a pretty mid-range computer, nothing special. And finally, I've got a massive whiteboard, which really helps me on developing. On one side, I have a bug list, and the other side is more of a to-do list. So a little bit of geography about me. I was born and raised in the outskirts of London. And after finishing school and realising I wanted to do game design as a degree, I moved to Cambridge to study my foundation year at Anglia Ruskin. After a year there, I wasn't really enjoying Cambridge, so I moved to Bournemouth, where I continued my first year of game design. After finishing my first year in Bournemouth University, I decided I wanted to do some charity work, so I decided to do a 2-month trip to Malawi in Africa. And after a month, I got offered a job at the local backpacker hostel lodge, so I decided to stay out there for another year. After that, I returned back to Bournemouth University to finish 2 more years of my degree, and now I'm moving back to London. Today I just received some concept artwork from my friend Toby. If you've been following me since the Western Province days, you may recognise his work. Toby is a really skilled artist and I love working with him. If you're interested in getting a commission from him, check out some of his links in the description below. He's great to work with and his prices are really fair. You may remember from a previous episode I showed you guys concept art pieces I used while designing the new snowy area. Well, I gave the same document to Toby and he created some of these quick drawings of different ideas. This is a really good way of working with others, as I could then pick which one I liked for him to expand upon. It's not quite finished yet, but I'm a big fan of it. His use of lighting and colour is amazing and I really like the little castle he put in the background. Generally, a concept artist would provide these pieces before the development, so the receiving artist would have a great idea of what the producer is after. But I use these concept art pieces for marketing images instead. Putting the logo on top of these looks really nice, and the images like this can be used everywhere. Previously on the Scuttle, I put the concept art images in the loading screens, and I think that came out really nice. This game doesn't really have any loading screens, but I'm sure I'll find a really nice place for them. This week I'm going to be looking at creating the Steam page for Hydroneer. It's not going to be coming out for a long time. I just wanted to get this sorted and out of the way so people can add it to their wish lists. Wish lists are really, really important for a developer. They let you know how much profit you're going to make. Also, if you want to get published, which I'm not really interested into. I'm open to the idea of it, but it's not something that I'm seeking out. But it's important to have a set amount of wish lists, get a gauge on how successful the product's actually going to be. So here's the store page so far. You wouldn't be able to see it publicly, only I can see it because it's in the preview mode. Everything you see here is completely subject to change and it will be changed. Pretty much everything will. It's just a case of just getting it out there and released. Especially this release date is just a placeholder, so don't look at that. So I've done everything now except from the images. I can't show you guys any of the back pages, it's all hidden by a NDA. But I can show you this preview right here. So what you do is you basically have a character limit up here for the short description, and then down here you've got a longer description. For the system requirements, I actually copied the system requirements from my previous game, the Scuttle. These will change slightly, especially kind of like storage space, but for the most part it'll run the same. May even run a little bit better. I plan on changing these bits here. Instead of this just being bold text, I want to actually have an image with the text on front here in some really nice font. And maybe even expand on these points a bit more. I've put the Patreon link just straight up at the top here, so if anyone visits the page and they're interested in the game, well, they can try it out on Patreon pretty easily right there. So next thing I need to do is to add in some images here. Then I'm going to take one last look over everything and then submit it to be public. So now I'm going to be doing some bug fixes. I've had a few bugs reported in the last few days, so I really want to get ahead on some of these. Because of my whole moving and stuff, I've been kind of slow on these updates, so it'd be really nice to get one out quite soon. And the first one is to do with this right here. This is one I actually noticed myself when I was recording some stuff for last week's video. So what we've got here is the inlet valve. So if you're not familiar with it, it is the water comes in through this part here and then gets pumped out and through the rest of the pipes. And the problem is, you just saw it, is when you're carrying it from the top half, which means that it's half in the ground, which looks bad as it is, but also when you drop it, it kind of pops out. Another point is when I try and buy one and put it into the cart, sometimes, there you go, it drops straight through the ground, and then your £36 you just spent on that is completely lost. So next what I want to do is essentially just move the pivot point, so instead of it being kind of up here, it'll be just down here. Okay, so here we are in the functioning game object. So basically what we've got is the static mesh here. We've got some of these boxes. So this bottom box down here is the one that checks if it's in water or not. And this one here is its building box. Each build item has got a building box, and they're in the size of either 50 by 50 by 50 or 50 by 100 by 50. This one is in 50 by 150 because obviously it's like a long one, so it needs to check both kind of parts of the collision. So you may notice right here where these two lines cross, that's the center pivot point. So what we need to do is to move the object up or move the pivot point down. So what I'm going to use is the pivot tool here. This is for any developers out there, this is the tool that is really handy to have. You can get it from the Unreal Engine marketplace for about £10. So what I need to do is offset this by about 50. So do that. That is the wrong way. So I need to go minus 100. And I think that should be okay. Might do another 50 just to make sure. There we go. So that is right in the middle of this kind of bottom piece. Obviously there's two pieces. I think that'll work really nice. So then I'm just gonna take it out. Alright, so now I just gotta double check and make sure everything's working just fine. Alright, let's test this out. So first off, test buying it, and yep, carrying it looks pretty good. This is also sitting in a bit of an awkward spot. Might need to move it out a little bit. So let's drop it down there. So pretty good to me. Buy it. I'm gonna go find some water. I'll put it down over here. Yep, looks pretty good to me. I'll just grab another pipe just to make sure the water's actually passing through. Perfect, that's working really nice. I think also I need to change the volume of the water splash. I think it's a tiny bit too loud. So it's one bug I can cross off the list. The next bug we're going to be looking at today is one submitted by one of the Patreons, Envy. So basically I've got a report where apparently if you can jump through some rocks in some of the snowy areas. So we're going to go check some of that out. Right, so he said it should be around here. If I apparently jump on top of these rail tracks, I can get inside this rock. Okay, yeah, so that's a bit of a problem. I think what's going on in here is just the collision isn't right for this rock. So we'll look into that. Right here we're in the collision view mode, and this right here is the rock in question. This is what it looks like normally, and this is what it looks like if we're looking at the collisions. And if you see right down here, there's a small gap. But then normally there's no small gap there. There's a tiny bit here, but not something that you could get into. So I think what we need to do here is just improve the collisions on this big rock. So when you're actually going around it, you don't just fall straight down there. So here's the rock we're looking at, and the issue is around the back. I think it's right around here. These green lines here are actually the collision that you can see. So if I could turn back on the collision view mode. To make things more optimized, it doesn't hold the collisions really tight to the actual faces. I could alternatively turn on this kind of collision where you can see here in these turquoise lines, and it really like hugs onto the rock, but we don't really want to do this. As far as I know, and I could actually be wrong, if you have a lot of faces on your collision, Generally, there's more work for the physics engine when objects are moving across it, so we want to kind of minimize that. So what I do is I basically generate the collision on these objects, and now that looks just a little bit better. We'll test it out. I think it's looking a lot better now. Yeah, you can't even go through that gap, so I think this bug is solved, and there's one more off the list. That's going to do it for this week. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it. I wanted to tackle some easy bugs for this video since I moved house. That took up a big portion of my week. Big thanks to all my Patreons. If you'd like to join them and play Hydroneer, head over to the link in the description. For $2 you get full access to the game as well as other cool perks. I also have the giveaway I do every week. Drop a comment on the video and in a few days I'll go in there and select one to win a free Steam key of my previous game, The Scuttle. Thanks for watching and I will see you next week.